Hello, what is up, you guys? It is me, Suhasset Michaels, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And also, welcome back to episode 2 of Unveiling Evil, the nighttime podcast. So, before I go on to do my disclaimers, I just want to say, first of all, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share the video if you want to, turn on your notifications bell. I really appreciate that. And I do apologize that episode 2 is so unbelievably fucking long. I apologize profusely. I have been getting a whole bunch of case notes together for a whole bunch of different episodes, so hence me being away from the podcast, and also I'm working on other projects. So this Unveiling Evil podcast has kind of taken a step back, but we're coming back to fruition. I'm bringing my attention back, motherfuckers. So, my disclaimer, first of all, is going to be this is a nighttime podcast, you guys. So, basically, I'm doing this because I couldn't find a podcast that was just simplistic like this. So, I just decided to say, fuck it, do it my way. Preferably, I don't intend on changing the style of this video or any of the future videos in regards to Unveiling Evil, which, what I mean by that is, I'm quite happy with the black screen. I don't see why I have to technologically vamp up my videos just to please everybody else when I can come onto YouTube and be myself and I practice what I preach. So, yeah, I hope you guys like this style. Get relaxed, grab some tea, because bitch, this episode is hella interesting. Also, the credited sources, if you're curious about where I got any of my information, will be down below in the comments. Sorry, not the comments, will be down below in the description. You see, it's been a long time and I've forgotten already. But it's all coming back to me, coming back to me now. I'm sorry, Celine Dion, don't sue me. No, like, seriously, you can literally get sued for singing people's shit, so, like, Celine, hi, Huns, don't be suing me now. And so, without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the Unveiling Evil Nighttime Podcast, Episode 2, the case of the world's most wanted woman, aka the Chameleon. So, I would typically do my true crime stories starting from the early life stage. However, without ruining the ending for you guys, I'm just going to start off by telling you how this person was described at the time, during the time of the crime. Before then, people that knew this woman in her adult life, we couldn't really find much on her early life, and I don't want to say why because I would ruin the ending. So this woman, who I'm going to name later, was described as incredibly intelligent, way more intelligent than the average person. Very, very, very clever, smart, knew what they were doing, always ahead of the game. Up until the very, very end, was still ahead of the game. Very cunning, had a very wide amount of skills that helped her evade capture, evade suspicion, evade being located, to literally help her evade capture to the point where she can get on a plane and fly to a different country. And even if this woman is located in certain countries, or said country, she is still hard to find because she's incredibly skilled. Mixed in with the intelligence too. The intelligence of this woman plays a huge, huge part in this case. It's very, very, very intriguing. Also described as highly dangerous. Zero conscious at all. A con artist, and a very experienced and a very knowledgeable con artist, very good at what she did. Very, very, very convincing. Like Academy Award winning actress type shit. She was known to use at least 20 different identities, that being of people that are alive, dead, identities also she made up. From what we know, it was at least 20. but it could definitely be more. There's nothing to say that it could definitely be more, because this woman is incredibly intelligent, incredibly skilled. She's a very experienced con artist. She's cunning. She knows exactly what the fuck she's doing. She steals identities of people that she meets and becomes incredibly obsessed with these identities to the point where she will actually adapt and take on said person in whom in whom's identity she's stealing. She will literally take on their life, their personality, their past experiences, who they are. She had access to fake IDs and fake documentation too, which made it very easy for her to change who she was. And if that wasn't bad enough or intriguing enough, or quite a lot to digest enough as it is, this woman was also considered as a prime suspect in an incredibly gruesome, grotesque, and truly brutal crime. And that lady's name was Elaine Parent. Elaine Antoinette Parent. And during the time of the murder, she was actually living a couple of, I think it was 100 miles outside of St. Lucie County in Florida. And she was actually looking to move in with somebody as a roommate, which she actually later ended up doing. Which brings us to July 1990, when the body of a woman was found. The body of this woman was headless and also didn't have any hands. Her hands had been removed. Her abdomen was thought to be damaged. Later on, after further investigation, it turned out that a tattoo that was quite identifiable, quite unique, had been cut out of the abdomen. And this woman's body was found in a bag at the side of a canal, so in a very public setting. It was actually found by a member of the public that thought it was, I believe it was like trash or something in the bag. And this, people that investigated the scene looked at the body, described it as a very, very overly done overkill. You wouldn't have needed to do all that to this poor woman in order to kill her. Like, enough was enough. Which brings me on to the cause of death, which they actually couldn't determine. But we'll move on to that a little bit later on. Again, upon my research, the repetition of this being an incredibly gruesome and grotesque scene kept reappearing. So if you can envision that, that's quite a gruesome discovery to come across anyway. But imagine being a member of the public and not having that kind of training that you would get in the police or the investigating services, where you can prepare yourself to see, at the very worst of scenarios, a deceased body. You have certain kinds of training in those careers. People from the general public don't. The body was later identified as a Beverly McGowan, who was 34, and she was a bank clerk. So let's switch gears a bit and let's talk a little bit more about Elaine Parent. So what we know and we will continue to learn about Elaine Parent is that she is constantly on the lookout for new identities that she can take on as her own. It was reported she would go and look in graveyards. She would steal identities from people she met with. Numerology, which was used as a trick or a trap in order to gain personal information like one's social security number, one's bank details, so on and so forth. Even to the point where she would ask these people that she barely knew if she could borrow their birth certificate, and she would mail it back to them. Which she ended up doing, but after she would mail back, she did this particularly to one friend or person associate that she knew. She took her birth certificate and after about a 4-week period mailed it back to her, and the friend never heard from the Elaine Parent again. And during that time that happened with Elaine taking the friend's birth certificate, she was actually going by the name Sandra. Elaine Parent targeted mostly single women, and she was an incredibly skilled master manipulator. She could charm anybody. absolutely anybody, but her preference was single women. And at the time of Beverly McGowan's murder, Elaine Parent was actually going by the alias of Alice. So, to avoid me being repetitive, I just want to emphasize the point that Alice is an alias, Sandra is an alias. So basically, Alice had ended up moving in with Beverly McGowan. She was going to be Beverly McGowan's roommate. Beverly owned her own condo. And I guess this was, in Beverly's mind, a new experience, a new friend. It would be something good. And that it was a general feel of Alice was a good person in Beverly's life at that time. So, how Alice used certain tactics to get closer to Beverly brings us back to the point of numerology. So, basically, Alice had said to Beverly, "I'm gonna do you a numerology chart. Give me this information, give me that information," and that was how Alice was able to acquire and gain Beverly McGowan's personal information, which will come into relevancy a little bit later on. So hold on to that. But I do want to emphasize and stress the point that the numerology was a trick slash a trap, just to purely gain the trust of the people that she was trying to manipulate and use, and also to gain the personal information, their social security numbers, their bank details, etc., so on and so forth. So at this point, Alice is now able to successfully take on Beverly's identity in due time. She's gained her trust. She's moving in with her. Beverly doesn't know who she really is. Um, this is a new person, a new environment, and this person seems incredibly positive, uplifting. She's gonna do a numerology chart. She's trying to get Beverly to travel a lot, saying that it's all to do with numerology and she's going to meet somebody new. And yeah, she should get out there into the world and travel more, explore. And of course, if you was to meet somebody like that, they're incredibly captivating people because that's how master manipulators work. They want you to like them. They're going to go that extra mile for you to like them. They're going to want to do things that make you feel like you can trust them and that there's a friendship there, there's a bond there, there's a closeness there. Essentially trapping you in without you even realizing it. Kind of like that situation where it's like, come in for a hug whilst I stab you in the back, but I'm going to keep smiling as you bleed type of thing. So on July 18th, 1990, Beverly calls in sick to work. Now, this is unconfirmed whether it was actually Beverly McGowan herself who phoned up and called into work and said that she was sick, or it could have very easily been Elaine Perrin, aka Alice. But again, I just want to stress the point that that is unconfirmed from what I could see through my research. But of course, if I'm wrong about anything, do feel free to correct me in the comments down below. However, after this phone call into work, the real Beverly McGowan was actually never seen alive again. And she's pretty much considered as a person that may have just gone missing. So after the 2-day period of Beverly McGowan apparently going missing, in quotations, her brother decides that he's going to phone up her bank people and he's going to have her cards cancelled. And he's hoping that that might prompt her to get into contact with him to let him know that she is okay. Hold on to this thought because this point comes on later on. It's a very, very key point. Beverly's brother had also received a letter from Beverly basically saying that she was going away and she was going traveling, and it basically ended with goodbye. It was basically explaining pretty much that she was going away, she was going traveling, she was going finding herself, so on and so forth. But the letter didn't sit well with Beverly's brother. He actually felt quite unnerved by the letter. And for all we know, it could have very well been this Alice, in quotations, who in fact wrote this letter, or maybe she coaxed Beverly into writing this letter. We don't know for sure. So again, after cancelling her cards, Beverly's brother decides that, he's still not been able to get into contact with her. He's still not heard anything, so he's going to get in contact with the police. However, we run into a major issue here because Beverly is a 34-year-old grown woman, and if she wants to go traveling, allegedly, according to the letter that her brother received, and she wants to go and find herself, then, as far as the police were concerned, she's 34 years old, she's a grown woman, she can go and do what she wants to do as and when so she chooses. And truthfully, there was very little police could do. As far as they were aware, there was a letter there stating where she was, and there was no reason for police to, at this moment, fear that there was anything wrong or that Beverly may have been at risk or was currently at risk. So, in conclusion, there was no real reason for the police to act. I think it's shitty that that's how the law is, but in my opinion, I think we shouldn't be so quick to just dismiss things like that as, oh, that's just, they're an adult, let's just leave them to it, because they've left a letter there. And, people don't just vanish and contact absolutely nobody. Especially when they've been known to contact people frequently. They don't just go from contacting people frequently to saying, okay, I'm not doing it anymore. I'm going traveling, living my life. People's behavior just doesn't change like that. People's behavior doesn't change spontaneously. You can't change your whole approach to life being how you are, living life the way you do, in terms of communicating with people, seeing people, so on and so forth. You can't change all that so spontaneously and so out of the blue. And I get the impression from my research that that's how Beverly's brother was feeling. It was very unnerving, it was very unsettling, it was very confusing. It didn't seem like Beverly at all, because she'd gone and got herself a job. She paid for her condo herself. Nobody else helped her. She paid for it herself. She just got a roommate. She seemed happy. She was just got the job as a bank clerk. So things were looking up for her. So when you really sit and think about it, what reason does she have to just disappear? She's happy. She's got a roof over her head. She's got money coming in. She's got this person that's come into her life who seems to be this big ray of sunshine, this positive person, this confidence boost, this energy that was very uplifting, very positive. It just didn't make any sense for Beverly to just say fuck it and vanish. So going back to the crime scene, meaning where the body was found, there was one identifying feature that Elaine Parent had actually missed when she was removing identifying pieces of Beverly's body. So, i.e., she was found headless, she was found without hands, her very distinctive tattoo on her abdomen was removed. And the most common ways that you identify a human body is via the teeth and dental records, which obviously they couldn't do because there wasn't a head, and hands because of the fingerprints. Fingerprints are very unique, but there was no hands there, so they couldn't do that. They couldn't take a picture of the tattoo that was very distinctive on the abdomen because it wasn't there. However, Elaine Perrin actually missed the yellow rose tattoo that was located on Beverly's ankle, and they were able to help in the assistance of identifying Beverly with that tattoo. Beverly's body was severely mutilated. Way, way, way more than it needed to be, than was necessary, than you really had to do. Overkill. And once again, I just want to say that the cause of death could not actually be determined because they didn't have a head. There was no visible stab wounds to the body. There was no gunshots. They reckon that she was possibly bludgeoned to death. Maybe she was alive whilst being decapitated. Maybe she had her throat slit. Who exactly knows? We don't know what exactly was 100% officially the cause of Beverly McGowan's death. I guess it's open to speculation, so make so of what you will. It was also impossible for police investigating services to tell if the murderer of Beverly McGowan had actually killed before or not. But one thing they knew for sure was this person was highly dangerous. And if this person could commit an attack like that and just leave a body there in a bag on the side of a canal, this person clearly was confident, knew what they were doing, and had zero problem, I guess. If they had to do it again, they wouldn't have a problem. They wouldn't hesitate against it. Very, 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 very dangerous and incredibly unpredictable. And truthfully, in my opinion, I think that anybody that knew Elaine Parent was potentially in a very, very, very extremely deadly situation, because she was unpredictable. She did not care about whose identity it was, whose life it was. She didn't care. If she picked you, she wanted you, she got you. So who's to say that she couldn't wipe you off the face of the earth if she wanted to? Let's not forget, this is a person that possesses, in my opinion, very high skills, very unique skills. She was a very active mind, very, 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 very smart, very intelligent, always one step ahead of the police, always one step ahead of everybody else. She could maneuver through a lot of different situations, hence the name the Chameleon. And I also think hence a lot of police and investigating services pointing out a lot that she wasn't, her intelligence was quite outstanding, very smart. She clearly was a very confident person in how she maneuvered through life and how she lived her life and how she switched from one person to another to another to another to another. Because let's not forget, not only would she adapt their identity, she would literally adapt their identity. So she would have their birth certificate, their social security, their information like that. She would adopt their identity like that, but also in the sense of she would become that person. She would live that person's life. She would have used the same stories they'd used and same experiences they'd been through, completely obsessed with that person and that identity at that one time. So after they've found Beverly's body, she's been identified. Police try and track down Alice, but Alice had vanished, and information that Alice had given out to people prior, when it was investigated, for example, she said she worked at the IBM bank. However, when they phoned up IBM, they investigated further, they did their research. She did not work there. They'd never heard of anybody by the name. So it's very suspicious if you're looking into somebody that this girl has known a very short period of time. All of a sudden, a murder occurs, and this girl was supposed to be her roommate, and all of a sudden this girl disappears, and the information that she's given out to people prior, when it's looked into and it's checked on, doesn't add up. Very, very suspicious. So I guess at this point the question was, or is, who is Alice? We know who she is, really, but who is she? Who is Alice? Where did that name originate from? Um, what's the history? Not only that, where is this person? Where did she go? Where did she travel to? How was it so easy for police investigating services to lose track of her? Why wasn't action taken faster, given the fact that this bizarre letter Beverly's brother had received was completely out of character? He even broke into her apartment to try and check to see if he could find her. He couldn't find her, and that's where he found the bank cards. And around this time is when Beverly's bank card had actually come in use. So we're backtracking a little bit. So at this time, for Elaine Parent, she started to use Beverly's bank card, and it became active, and they were able to trace that. And that was traced to the area of Miami Beach. And the person that was actually seen using Beverly McGowan's bank card did not match the physical description of Beverly McGowan, meaning this person looked absolutely nothing at all like Beverly. Nothing at all. Again, very suspicious. Again, problematic. Again, out of the ordinary, because why would Beverly be at Miami Beach when she just gotten a new job? She was meant to be in work, you know. Why would she call in sick and then head off to Miami? Doesn't make any sense. And not contact anybody and leave this bizarre letter and not use her bank card until a couple of days later. It didn't make a lot of sense. It starts to get a little bit iffy and a little bit suspect. And also, we know that at this stage, Beverly McGowan is dead, so she can't possibly be the person using her cards. And she can't possibly be the person at the Miami Beach that was witnessed. Because you can't be at an ATM drawing out cash if you've been murdered. Doesn't really add up. And that would be a first. So as tracking of the bank card began, intelligence came in that there was a reservation made for a ticket to London that had been booked. So a flight to London. So this mysterious person that we know is not Beverly is using Beverly's card and is attempting now to potentially flee the scene. Maybe this person isn't coming back. We don't know. But either way, they're about to send the police and investigating services on an international wild goose chase that would go on for 12 years. Also, there was more than one occasion that was recorded of the person using Beverly's card being seen, again, not matching the physical description. I just want to note also that every time that card was used after Beverly was deceased, the person was described to look completely different each time. So we'll never really know whether it was one person, maybe it was a lame parent in disguise continuously, and in different disguises, or maybe it was more than one person working with Elaine. We will never really know. Again, I guess that's open to speculation. So at this stage, Beverly, in quotations, had flown to Heathrow Airport in London. And prior to this, she had actually reserved a rental car for when she had arrived at Heathrow Airport. Again, using Beverly's card. So using a dead girl's card, she's gone and made this reservation. So at this point, US police have requested international help from the UK police in order to intercept this person before they are able to leave. And this reach out for international help was made 3 days after Beverly was found deceased. Now, allegedly, possibly, I was unable to find out whether this was true or not. Again, we'll never really know, but it is quite possible that within the airport lavatories, it's quite possible that Elaine Perrin actually may have allegedly, possibly, we don't know, changed disguises again, which I know criminalistic is not a word, or at least I don't think it is, but in criminalistic terms, I mean, it's a word today. In criminalistic terms, it's a very smart thing to do, because if you're trying to avoid detection, I would say one of the best things to come up with really would be, you know, you attend a flight, you get on that flight in one disguise, you get off the flight, you go into the lavatory, and you decide to switch up your disguise again, come out looking completely different. Again, staying that one step ahead, throwing the police off, and again, would be a huge, huge, huge chance of that lead of the person on the plane going blank, because by the time they've got a description of the person on the plane, she would have already potentially, possibly, allegedly changed disguises again and again, drawing a blank conclusion. Very, very smart thinking from a criminalistic view. So, as the quote unquote Beverly arrives at the car rental desk, to inquire about her car rental and pay for the rental, she is told that her card is declined and her card is confiscated. But the quote unquote Beverly pays in cash. Now, the credit card and the bank card had been cancelled because let's not forget, Beverly's brother had actually cancelled the card in hopes that she would phone him or get into contact with him and inquire about why he'd cancelled the cards. And this turned out to be an incredibly unfortunate and unforeseen mistake because Beverly's brother cancelling that bank card or that credit card, whatever it was, meant that the trail stopped. So he did that for a reason that he thought would help and maybe would get Beverly to come back to him, get into contact, but in fact, it actually prevented the case from moving forward as quick as it could have. In fact, it gave quote unquote Beverly, quote unquote Alice, quote unquote Elaine Perrin actually gave her a 48-hour head start, which in criminalistic terms and looking at the kind of criminal that Elaine Perrin is incredibly dangerous. You don't give somebody that smart, that cunning, that skilled, that intelligent, that much of a con artist, that much of a perfectionist with how she is able to trick people and use people and manipulate them. It's quite disturbing to think that she had that big of a time frame of a head start. 48 hours is a lot of time for somebody that smart, that active in their mind, that well prepared, that confident in their actions. That's a lot of time. And I get it was a mistake, but in future, let's learn a lesson, guys. If somebody goes missing and you're curious and you're worried, don't cancel the card, don't cancel anything. Make sure that there's access to a digital footprint, a technological footprint, this, that, the other. Don't delete anything, don't cancel anything. So, 48 hours after the incident with the rental desk, it was actually brought to the police's attention that, obviously they'd identified now that Beverly was actually deceased. The real Beverly McGowan was deceased, and that her card was being used fraudulently. So, they were actually able to confirm the fact with the fact that she had they had physical proof of a deceased body that was identified as Beverly, but there was somebody using her card that just so happened to be in London now. So they weren't in Florida, which also complicated the case because it had to be turned international. They had to request international help and wait on that help, and jurisdictions and laws and all these kinds of things was a process. But she also had a 48-hour head start, and police began to